Good evening and welcome to Decisions 2012. I'm Dale Edwards.
I'm Jen Moreno.
And I'm Jamie Arterburn.
Now, if you're a regular Bear News viewer, you're sitting there thinking, okay, I know Jen and I know Jamie, but who's the crazy guy in the middle? I'm the news director here at Bear News, and I came out of broadcast retirement to do election returns one more time. God only knows why. Tonight, we'll bring you the latest numbers to keep you up to date as we reach the culmination of nearly 2 years of campaigning, primary elections, conventions, the expenditure of more than $2 billion, and that's just an effort to win the White House.
Yes, but in addition to the White House, there are other important races we're watching as well. 33 U.S. Senate seats are up for grabs, and with them, control of the Senate. 21 seats are currently held by Democrats, and 10 are held by Republicans. There are 2 independents, Bernie Sanders of Vermont and John Lieberman of Connecticut. Both caucus with the Democrats and tend to vote with them. Sanders is running for re-election and has been projected to win. Lieberman is retiring, and the latest polls suggest his seat will return to the Democratic Party. But will the Republicans be able to defend their seats? At least 2 are in jeopardy and pick up enough to take control? Or will the Democrats be able to defend enough states to maintain their slim 51 to 47 seat majority? Who controls the Senate will be a big difference no matter who's elected president tonight. Neither of Colorado's senators are up for re-election. Senator Mark Udall's term expires in 2014, and Bennett's term isn't up until 2016. But the importance of the Senate in future legislative action will be watching the seats that are considered up for grabs.
And all 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are up for election tonight. Now, in addition to those 435 regular members, there are also 5 delegates and 1 resident commissioner. The delegates represent American Samoa, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Washington, D.C. The resident commissioner represents Puerto Rico. The delegates run for election every 2 years, and the resident commissioner is up for election every 4 years. They all have the same basic rights and responsibilities as regular House members, but they can't vote on legislation when it comes up for a final vote. The Republicans currently hold a 240 to 190 seat majority, and you'll notice that's 5 short of 435. That's because there are 5 vacancies right now, and those will be filled today. The convention wisdom is that the Republicans will maintain their control of the House, but by how much will they gain seats or lose them? And Colorado voters will choose who fills the state's delegation in the House. Currently, 4 seats are held by Republicans and 3 by Democrats. We'll keep an eye on the U.S. House races as the night unfolds.
And speaking of Colorado, Bear News Sports Director Ben Warwick is keeping his eye on the Colorado races, especially the U.S. House races and several constitutional amendments. That's the state constitution and the local tax measure that are on the ballot today. Ben, what are you looking at?
Thanks, Dale. There aren't major statewide races on the ballot today. For instance, Governor Hickenlooper has 2 more years in his term. But there are 20 Colorado Senate races and 65 House seats up for election tonight, and we'll keep an eye on them because control of the Colorado General Assembly could be up for grabs. Depending on how those races turn out, we're also watching 3 constitutional amendments and a local bond measure that voters will decide today. The first one is Amendment 64. That's the one that would allow adults to possess small amounts of marijuana and would impose an excise tax on the drug. The amendment would require the first $40 million raised by that excise tax to go to school construction. Now, here's a big question about that one. What if it passes? Marijuana possession is still illegal under federal law, and so far the U.S. Attorney hasn't indicated he's going to stop enforcing that law, even if state voters pass a constitutional amendment. So that adds some interest there. Amendment 65 would require Colorado's congressional delegation to vote in favor of a constitutional amendment limiting campaign fundraising and expenditures. And then if such an amendment ever passed the U.S. House and Senate, this state amendment would require the Colorado General Assembly to vote to ratify it. Then there's Amendment S. That one would change the state's personnel system and would exempt more workers from Colorado's civil service system, plus some other things. We'll take an in-depth look later. Those are the statewide amendments, but here in Greeley and Evans, voters have to decide whether to issue $8.2 million in general obligation bonds to help pay up to build a new middle school. That would replace John Evans Middle School. The building is about 50 years old, and school district officials say it really needs to be replaced. If local voters pass Measure 3A, the bond money will pay the local match for a $21 million state grant to pay for the school. The cost total is about $29 million, and supporters say they're spending a bit more than $8 million to get a $29 million school is a good bargain. We'll see if local voters agree.
Okay, thanks, Ben. We will be updating those races throughout the evening as they happen. And by the way, we do have some updates here at our currently. We have had some races called already, and we have former Governor Mitt Romney with 132 electoral votes and President Obama with 108. Just a list of some of the states that are already have been called for former Governor Romney: Oklahoma, Arkansas, let's see, we have Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia. Also, we have Louisiana and Kansas and Nebraska, South Dakota, Texas, North Dakota. All of those so far pretty much as has been expected by pollsters and prognosticators. For the president, we have Illinois, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, the District of Columbia, New York. One of the big prizes, not unexpected, has gone for the president, as has Michigan. And let's see, that's all that we have at this point. And as I said, the total right now is 132 in favor of Governor Romney. This is Electoral College votes, 132 for former Governor Romney and 108 for President Obama. And we'll keep you up posted right there on all of that. We're joined tonight by the Bear News crew that's working hard to bring you all of the latest information. And we're also joined by several members from the Mirror. Most of you know that's the student newspaper here at UNC. And we're happy to have them with us tonight. They'll help us gather information through the evening. Also going to be doing some live blogging. And we'll see some of them up here on the desk a little bit later tonight. Well, that's where we are. That's where we are. So while we're waiting for more things to come in, let's take a look at some of the things that have gotten us here. The first of three presidential debates left voters feeling a little bit different about how this election was going than is previously thought. And with Jim Lehrer's lack of control, the debate quickly spins out of control with President Obama and Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney taking full control of the debate. Although it wasn't a landslide, Romney won round one after a lackluster performance by President Obama.
The first of three presidential debates takes place at the University of Denver on October 3rd. President Barack Obama and Governor Mitt Romney face off for the first time in public with all cameras on them. Hosted by PBS's Jim Lehrer, the debate covered topics ranging from taxes to Social Security, Medicare, and education. The first topic of the night, taxes.
4 years ago when I stood on this stage, I said that I would cut taxes for middle-class families. And that's exactly what I did.
I will not, under any circumstances, raise taxes on middle-income families.
Governor Romney and I do share a deep interest in encouraging small business growth. So at the same time that my tax plan has already lowered taxes for 98% of families, I also lowered taxes for small businesses 18 times.
And Mr. President, you're absolutely right, which is that with regards to 97% of the businesses are not taxed at the 35% tax rate. They're taxed at a lower rate. But those businesses that are in the last 3% of businesses happen to employ half of all the people who work in small business.
With the national deficit being an issue, Mitt Romney proposes what plan he would like to take, while President Obama says what he has already done to help with the deficit.
Well, first of all, I will eliminate all programs by this test if they don't pass it. Is the program so critical it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it? And if not, I'll get rid of it.
I worked with Democrats and Republicans to cut $1 trillion out of our discretionary domestic budget. That's the largest cut in the discretionary domestic budget since Dwight Eisenhower.
One topic in particular that both candidates see very differently about is Obamacare and healthcare insurance plans. While Obama speaks in favor of what he has done within the past 4 years with health insurance, Mitt Romney speaks to what he disagrees with and what kind of insurance plan he would like to see happen.
I don't think vouchers are the right way to go. And this is not my only my opinion. AARP thinks that the savings that we obtained from Medicare bolstered the system, lengthened the Medicare trust fund by 8 years. Benefits were not affected at all.
I know my own view is I'd rather have a private plan. I'd just as soon not have the government telling me what kind of health care I get. I'd rather be able to have an insurance company. If I don't like them, I can get rid of them and find a different insurance company. But people make their own choice. The other thing we have to do to save Medicare, We have to have the benefits high for those that are low income, but for higher income people, we're going to have to lower some of the benefits.
And finally, in the debate, something many college students can relate to is paying back student loans and knowing how much it's going to cost out of pocket. President Obama talked about the elimination of the middleman that happened under him, while Romney talked about how important education is to him and how it was reflected in Massachusetts having one of the best school systems in the country.
One of the things that I did as president was we were sending $60 billion to banks and lenders as middlemen for the student loan program, even though the loans were guaranteed. So there was no risk for the banks or the lenders, but they were taking billions out of the system. And we said, why not cut out the middleman?
I don't want to cut our commitment to education. I wanted to make it more effective and efficient. And by the way, I've had that experience. I don't just talk about it. I've been there. Massachusetts schools are ranked #1 in the nation. This is not because I didn't have commitment to education. It's because I care about education for all of our kids.
All right, Jen.
This is Samantha Fox, Bear News.
President Obama has more to prove during the second debate. In a town hall forum, 82 voters who are undecided in the New York area asked questions to the 2012 presidential candidates.
The debate takes place in a town hall forum in New York. This forum allows undecided voters within the area to ask questions of both candidates.
Mr. President, Governor Romney, as a 20-year-old college student, all I hear from professors, neighbors, and others is that when I graduate, I will have little chance to get employment. What can you say to reassure me, but more importantly, my parents, that I will be able to sufficiently support myself after I graduate?
I know what it takes to create good jobs again. I know what it takes to make sure that you have the kind of opportunity you deserve. And kids across this country are going to recognize we're bringing back an economy. It's not.
And what I want to do is build on the 5 million jobs that we've created over the last 30 months in the private sector alone. And there are a bunch of things that we can do to make sure your future is bright.
Your Energy Secretary, Stephen Chu, has now been on record 3 times stating it's not policy of his department to help lower gas prices. Do you agree with Secretary Chu that this is not the job of the Energy Department?
The proof of whether a strategy is working or not is what the price is that you're paying at the pump. If you're paying less than you paid a year or two ago, why then the strategy is working. But you're paying more. When the president took office, the price of gasoline here in Nassau County was about $1.86 a gallon. Now it's $4 a gallon.
Because the economy was on the verge of collapse. Because we were about to go through the worst recession since the Great Depression, as a consequence of some of the same policies that Governor Romney is now promoting. So it's conceivable that Governor Romney could bring down gas prices, because with his policies, we might be back in that same mess.
In what new ways do you intend to rectify the inequalities in the workplace, specifically regarding females making only 72% of what their male counterparts earn?
This is one of the reasons why the first bill I signed was something called the Lilly Ledbetter Bill. And this is named after this amazing woman who had been doing the same job as a man for years, found out that she was getting paid less, and the Supreme Court said that she couldn't bring suit because she should have found out about it earlier. She had no way of finding out about it. So we fixed that.
I was proud of the fact that after I staffed my cabinet and my senior staff, that the University of New York in Albany did a survey of all 50 states and concluded that mine had more women in senior leadership positions than any other state in America.
That the State Department refused extra security for our embassy in Benghazi, Libya, prior to the attacks that killed 4 Americans. Who was it that denied enhanced security, and why?
So as soon as we found out that the Benghazi consulate was being overrun, I was on the phone with my national security team, and I gave them 3 instructions. Number 1, beef up our security and procedures, not just in Libya, but in every embassy and consulate in the region. Number 2, investigate exactly what happened, regardless of where the facts lead us, to make sure that folks are held accountable and it doesn't happen again. And number 3, we are going to find out who did this, and we're going to hunt them down. Because
there were many days that passed before we knew whether this was a spontaneous demonstration or actually whether it was a terrorist attack. And there was no demonstration involved. It was a terrorist attack. And it took a long time for that to be told to the American people. Whether there was some misleading or instead whether we just didn't know what happened, I think you have to ask yourself, why didn't we know?
With one final debate, President Obama and Governor Romney have a last chance to sway voters on a national scale. Foreign policy is the name of the game, with both candidates bringing strong arguments to the table.
The final debate of this election season takes place in Boca Raton, where foreign policy is the name of the game. Due to the timing, one of the most talked about foreign policy issues that has been seen throughout the season is the attack that happened on the American consulate in Libya.
But I think it's important to step back and think about what happened in Libya. And keep in mind that I and Americans took leadership in organizing an international coalition that made sure that we were able to, without putting troops on the ground, at the cost of less than what we spent in 2 weeks in Iraq, liberate a country that had been under the yoke of dictatorship for 40 years.
Well, my strategy is pretty straightforward, which is to go after the bad guys, to make sure we do our very best to interrupt them, to kill them, to take them out of the picture. But my strategy is broader than that. That's important, of course. But the key that we're going to have to pursue is a pathway to get the Muslim world to be able to reject extremism on its own.
In regards to foreign policy, some believe that America should step in when they see fit, while others believe that America should stay hands-off in other countries' problems. Here's what Obama and Romney have to say about America's role in the world.
Well, I absolutely believe that America has a responsibility and the privilege of helping defend freedom and promote the principles that make the world more peaceful.
America remains the one indispensable nation. And the world needs a strong America, and it is stronger now than when I came into office.
In regards to war and national security, something key is military spending.
Now, keep in mind that our military spending has gone up every single year that I've been in office. We spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined.
This, in my view, is the highest responsibility of the President of the United States, which is to maintain the safety of the American people. And I will not cut our military budget.
How much of an impact does foreign policy have on this election? And how big of an impact will this final debate have on who's going to be sitting in the Oval Office for the next 4 years? Only time will tell. I'm Samantha Fox, Bear News.
The 2012 vice president debate gave Joe Biden and Paul Ryan the chance to be put on the spot during the only forum of its kind this election. With more control than the first debate, both candidates burned through more topics than the presidential debate. Samantha Fox has more on the story.
Ryan.
I can make absolutely two commitments to you and all the American people tonight. One, we will find and bring to justice the men who did this. And secondly, we will get to the bottom of it, and wherever the facts lead us, wherever they lead us, we will make clear to the American public, because whatever mistakes are made will not be made again.
Look, if we are hit by terrorists, we're going to call it for what it is, a terrorist attack.
We can and we will get it under 6%. Let's take a look at the facts. Let's look at where we were when we came to office. The economy was in free fall. We had the Great Recession hit. 9 million people lost their job. $1.6 trillion in wealth lost, in equity in your homes and retirement accounts for the middle class.
Joe and I are from similar towns. He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I'm from Janesville, Wisconsin. You know what the unemployment rate in Scranton is today?
I sure do.
It's 10%.
Yeah.
You know what it was the day you guys came in? 8.5%.
Yeah.
That's how it's going all around America. Look.
You don't read the statistics. That's not how it's going. It's going down, Medicare.
Here's the problem. They got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, turning Medicare into a piggy bank for Obamacare. Their own actuary from the administration came to Congress and said, 1 out of 6 hospitals and nursing homes are going to go out of business as a result of this.
Quickly, the bottom line here is that all the studies show that if we went with Social Security proposal made by Mitt Romney, if you're 40, in your 40s now, you will pay $2,600 a year more. You get $2,600 a year less than Social Security. If you're in your 20s now, you get $4,700 a year less.
We have 3 bottom lines. Don't raise the deficit. don't raise taxes on the middle class, and don't lower the share of income that is borne by the
middle class will pay less, and people making $1 million or more will begin to contribute.
If these cuts go through, our Navy will be the smallest it has been since before World War I. This invites weakness. Look, do we believe in peace through strength? You bet we do. And that means you don't impose these devastating cuts on our military.
Look, I want to move on. We don't cut it. And I might add, this so-called, I know we don't want to use the fancy word sequester, this automatic cut, that was part of a debt deal that they asked for. And
now, I understand this is a difficult issue, and I respect people who don't agree with me on this. But the policy of a Romney administration will be to oppose abortion with the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother.
But I refuse to impose it on equally devout Christians and Muslims and Jews. And I just refuse to impose that on others, unlike my friend here, the congressman. I do not believe that that we have a right to tell other people that women, they can't control their body. It's a decision between them and their doctor.
Honesty? Well, no one else could. There are plenty of fine people who could lead this country. But what you need are people who, when they say they're going to do something, they go do it. What you need are when people see problems, they offer solutions to fix those problems. We're not getting that.
Let me tell you, my record stands for itself. I never say anything I don't mean. Everybody knows whatever I say, I do. And my whole life has been devoted to leveling the playing field for middle-class people, giving them an even break.
Thanks, Sam. As of right now, we have some more results in, and for Tennessee, it's going with Romney, and South Dakota is also going with Romney. The state of New York has 29 electoral votes going for Obama. Kansas is also going for Romney, and South Carolina is going to Romney. An interesting fact right now is that Wisconsin is going for Obama, which is actually Paul Ryan's home state, so that's very interesting. So now I'm going to toss it over to Dr. Edwards right now.
Well, we have here on our left yet another person. It's amazing how, oh, you're a real professional outfit. Here we are here. Yeah, new people keep popping up all over the place here. And tonight we have Kelly Scott, who is a professor here on campus. She teaches communication studies and also journalism. And we're going to be talking with her about national races and about a number of issues in the national races. So first of all, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you for having me tonight.
All right, well, I would like to start off with some women's issues that we've been seeing come up quite a lot in this election. I mean, I know you, me, the ladies here, it's very important to me that those issues get addressed. So can you kind of speak to how that's been being handled by both the candidates?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that it's for most women, at least most of the women that I talk to about some of the political issues that are going on, it's really upsetting that it seems like there's been a pigeonholed between two issues, which is abortion and birth control. And I think that there's a lot more issues that women are concerned about. And I think some of them address the economic state. One thing that a lot of people are talking about is the Lilly Ledbetter Act that President Obama, it was the first law he signed into office, or signed into law in his term, and that was in January of 2009. And the interesting thing is that the only thing that it changed in terms of Fair Pay Act was that the statute of limitation got changed. So while that's important, and it's something that a lot of people are saying is showing that Obama's backing women issues, it's a pretty minor thing, at least in my opinion, in terms of things that women are concerned about. Fair pay is important, but we had bills in place in 1964 and 1965 that addressed some of those issues. So I would, as a woman and hopefully one day a mother, some things I'm concerned about is education. And we know that there are a lot of single moms out there, unfortunately, and they depend heavily on free and reduced lunches, which is part of something that Romney would like to cut if put into office.
Okay. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, I mean, as far as that goes, you're saying that Obama would keep those programs and Romney would take them away.
Absolutely, and it's
Would he totally take them away or cut them?
reduce them in the money spent on them.
Are you talking about reducing them actual reductions, or are you talking about reductions in the amount of increase? Because there's a difference between the two.
Absolutely, absolutely. My understanding is cut them as in cut them, not as in not increase them. And I know that Obama, in terms of what he's done and his progress in that, is that him as well as the First Lady have worked a lot in increasing the nutrition value of some of the meals that children are offered at school. But it's actually the free and reduced lunches that I would think as a parent, some people should be concerned about, especially with 31 million children relying in the nation on that as a part of their well-balanced meals for the day. Mm-hmm. So that's just one thing, and that's just another thing that I think that's interesting is the big bird getting fired comment that we all keep hearing. Yeah. And if we look at it in terms of cutting funding to PBS and NPR, what we might see if we're talking that we would reduce those, again, a woman's issue is that they offer some good children's programming. And rural areas might see if government funding is reduced, they rely anywhere between 40 and 60% of their budget is relied on from the government. So we might see literally Big Bird get fired, but I don't think that the likelihood of PBS and NPR going away is going to take place if Romney gets elected.
Don't they only get really about 2% of their total budget from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to fund PBS and NPR?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, they have all those telethons that we see
absolutely,
all the time.
absolutely.
Also, but
so another telethon, at least.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Are there any issues that you feel have been ignored or just not touched on enough among the candidates? Can you speak to that at all?
The only thing that I find interesting is that I think that women are, in general, if we're going back to women's issues, I think that women are concerned just as much about the economy, getting a good paying job, and my disappointment was that the candidates focused not only in the debates, but some of their stump speeches as well as their advertising campaigns were focused primarily on things like Planned Parenthood, birth control, and abortion, which are issues that are very important, but the president, I don't think, has the power by themselves to change some of the things that are already in place. So I would have liked to see more focus, at least from the candidates, talking about perhaps increasing job opportunities for families, just in general. And I think that we didn't hear that in the discussion of women and what women are concerned about. So that would be the one thing, is where are we going to see job growth for we know women are huge in education. Where are we going to see that job growth? And I unfortunately didn't hear that too much in the discourse of this last presidential campaign season.
I really didn't either. And as somebody who goes to UNC and has a lot of friends who are education majors, that's something that really concerns me because I want them to
absolutely
have a job, and I want my kids to eventually have like a good education system. So I don't know.
So what do you think the difference will be in a second Obama term over a first Obama term?
It's a good question, because I think in terms, again, if we're just speaking for some of the women's issues, I think that he's done some pretty superficial things for women that people are championing, but I don't think that it's made strides towards increasing job opportunities for women, increasing job opportunities for single moms. I'd like to see that. I don't know that we will. We might hear some talk about it, but it would be nice to finally see some steps taken in terms of increasing that.
Well, the next logical question then is, if that isn't happening, then Governor Romney at least claims that he is going to be able to do that. So why wouldn't he be elected?
Absolutely. And he gave some, I thought, some interesting and good examples of how he has actually opened up the hiring pool for women and has encouraged women to apply for jobs that primarily men apply for. So I think that that's good in terms of his record and seeing what he has done as a businessman and in his political career. So it is hopeful that if Romney does get the nod tonight by the country, that perhaps we'll see different strides that he'll take, because he has a record of showing that he does take those extra steps.
Okay, well, thank you, Kelly Scalisi. Do we have some additional some additional cards that we need to read here.
Why, yes, we do. Right now, Romney is taking Wyoming, and the District of Columbia is being called in Obama's favor, which makes the Electoral College at 154 for Obama and 154 for Romney. So we definitely thought this was going to be close, and it looks like it's turning out that way.
I'd say that's close.
Yeah.
I would say so too.
154 to
tie,
154.
right?
I don't think it gets too much closer than that.
I don't think so either.
All right, well, tell you what, we've had all the fun we can stand for just a few minutes here. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching Decision 2012 on Channel 98, brought to you by UNC Bear News.